Yeah,
to remind me, like, I need to do that.
thank you. Okay, cool.
Remind me.
Yeah.
And the relationship.
Yeah.
Because it's not. It's not monogamous, like,
Yeah. It's hard. It's like editors. Yeah. I feel like editor relationship is hard sometimes because that's the thing. They have multiple projects, but like my baby's my baby, and I want you to.
But if I need to sit back.
Yeah.
Like, then give them focus on it. Yeah. If I start doing update. Talking about your update. Yeah, congratulations.
Hey, it's another step, right? We can read all this. Yeah, I try to. Sometimes that's like in the car. Sometimes it's in the car outside my bedroom. Okay, hold on.
I mean, think about it all morning and I just do keep juggling it. Yeah.
Yeah, this morning
It's nice to just know.
my brain was fried
There's
yesterday,
things
so
that
I can't get up early. Look at the phone.
And it's also.
You're and I had enough time to ruminate and get lost. Oh,
I have this one. I have this one.
That was my first, that was the one Jamie did. Right. And the one that I don't even know who it is, someone from BET ready.
And it's nice.
That was so.
Here's this thing. Oh, wait, we don't have a microphone, huh?
Yeah, so Monday through.
Yeah. Okay.
Do we need one?
We usually have the microphone. Completely forgot about that. I don't know. Where did Jesse go? Okay, give it one more second. Can everybody hear me? Because we're operating without microphones, so you're all good? Okay, awesome. I realized we didn't have microphones.
Oh, we do.
Yeah.
Is there a mic stand by any chance?
They didn't get us that.
Okay.
You're asking for a lot. Is this on? Testing.
Hey, good evening. I've been saying good evening all morning.
In English and French.
I've been watching Star Trek. Hi, I'm Peter Harris, and good morning. I'm the co-laureate of poetry here in Altadena with Carla Salmon, who is featured today with these marvelous guest poets, and she'll introduce them all. Meanwhile, a couple of administrative things and cultural thing. Here's a land acknowledgement, official land acknowledgement from the library. The Altadena Library District acknowledges our presence on the traditional, ancestral, and unceded land of the Gabrielino Tongva peoples. We commit to learning, educating, and informing our staff and the residents of Altadena about the Gabrielino Tongva peoples, present and past. Couple of notes, next month, Tuesday, March 21, we close out our formal set of readings and workshops prior to the super culminating poetry and cookies event in April. But next March at right here in the community room at 6 p.m., we'll be featuring 3 poetry couples. Folks who are partnered and are married, Laureate and William Archila, Shireen Sherrard and Ahmad Jamal Johnson, and Yvonne M. Estrada, and the very, very important legacy artist Terry Woolard. You have about 3 more days before we close our submission season for the Altadena Poetry Review. We are currently processing about 25 submissions. We have some in the queue that we haven't reviewed yet, but the submission Session closes on February 28th, so you have time to read and review and contact the contributors, and then have everything published in time for the April 29th Poetry and Cookies event. So with that, thank you guys for being here, and introduce Carla.
Hello, everybody.
Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you for reminding me because I was about to say good afternoon. I am going to go ahead and start out with a poem, and then I'm going to introduce our guest poets, and then I'll be back again. Does anyone know what a sestina is?
Yeah.
I know, because this room is full of poets. So I just want to tell you, in case you're thinking, oh, the words repeat. Well, often there's repetition in poetry anyway. So secondary inspections, a nose, a foreign look, a memory. They just want to know if you're Jewish, your mom says, of questions about what country you came from. You know that you'll never pass for who you are. Everyone claims your face. City of angels swelters, everyone here from somewhere else. Still they ask, where were you born? And how do you say hello? You answer, fearing hatred. Fear you came by naturally after strip search and secondary inspections. Not beautiful. Go to New York, you'll be sought out, the statuesque, unapologetically beautiful Black Colombian woman says. Here you're Toucan Sam, you're a Jew. Angelinos look for an airbrushed effect, images of themselves, she says, hatred for your ancestral look. You have only a slight accent, where are you from? Later, old Armenian men shout out greetings from their balconies, ask questions you can't understand. You only know your strong nose on face, too ugly for years, for a girl, and you're hairy. White Angelinos seek their own face, full lips, not too ethnic, not too angular, no rough edges, beautiful. Custom guards interrogate, hands grab your body. In Greece, Danish boys ask you for towels. Assume you're from Paros. A Jewish journalist writes story, gets tweets. His beheaded caricature rises from desire to make America white again. You are zoo animals watched by hatred. You fear reactions to your ancestral aura. You find hidden outposts of hatred. In the city of angels, everyone came from somewhere else, yet your face looks foreign. Every day you hear, no, where are you really from? No use saying you are second generation, born in America, land of the beautiful. Your mom's answer to that was always, they only want to know if you're Jewish. You go with your son on a field trip. What tribe are you? The Cherokee guide asks. Of course, we both came across the Bering Straits, he says, and doesn't ask, where are you really from when you answer. Shows no hatred. From Russia, Hungary, Palestine, Turkey, you say, and tell them you're Jewish. Watch what hashtag you use, lest it shows up as a cross burned on your Facebook page. Maybe it's true what the Colombiana says. Go to New York, you'd be beautiful there. Here your Black son looks like someone they might shoot or run from. You look like someone who might be rounded up, asked, where from? A man lingering outside 7-Eleven looks at you both and asks, Egyptian? Your son mimes the walk like Egyptian dance. Your beautiful son. Later he says, I guess there's more racism than I thought. Hatred spews out of a parking attendant's mouth, spits as he yells at a face that looked a lot like my son's. KKK leader posts, of course they're not white, Jews. You're looked upon with suspicion, hatred. They wonder where you're from. Will they look at our faces, hear an unspoken word, and ask, you wonder if you'll be beautiful, safe in New York, Jew and Afro-Jew. So I'm just going to read a shorter bio of our guest poets here, and just know you have a longer bio in the original announcement, and you should check it out. If you don't have one here, they're around the library still, because these are really talented poets with lots of experience, lots of accolades. And also, They might have even brought books. Yeah, they might have brought books. I brought books, by the way. So don't forget to ask later. Okay, our first poet up is Romaine Washington. Master's in Education, is a native Californian, born and raised in San Bernardino. The setting of her most recent collection, Purgatory, has an address. Her first collection, Sirens in Her Belly, which focuses on social justice, was on BET Editor's top 10 must-read list for 2016. Washington has presented her poetry in a variety of venues, some of which are KPFK, NPR, and Inside SoCal CBS. Please welcome Romaine Washington.
Yeah, the staple wanted to take my dress with me. So it's Saturday morning and it feels like it's still morning because of the gray sleet. But I gotta get with it. Okay, so good morning, everybody. It is so good to see you. I'm going to start off talking about being woke. And I can't believe way back in 1989, Spike Lee made a movie called Do the Right Thing. And that's where wake up, woke came from. And here now it's such a charged political word. So wake up. So I'd like to put mothers where mothers usually are not. And if you noticed, if you've watched the movie Do the Right Thing, there's no mother there. So I gave Radio Raheem a mom in this poem. Wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up, yo, wake up, wake up, up you wake up, you wake up, you wake up, you wake. Senior love daddy say Radio Raheem woke. Brass knuckles fighting love and hate. Summer heat is a restless demon on Bed-Stuy streets. Raheem's boombox voice got lots say. His mama thinks one day he gonna be preach or teach or write a play. When summer ends, he'll go back to school. Tonight is summer. Tonight is always summer. Mama looking for her Goliath of a preacher man boy. She looking for his boombox. He always got his boombox. She can't find Raheem. Bed-Stuy big, but ain't no man, cause she worked 2 jobs, too hard to feed her triple D battery boy, big and all. Paul Revere and boomboxing boy can't breathe. Her unfurled mind can't breathe. She need Raheem woke. He need to do the right thing. Come home woke. Raheem, wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up. Up you wake, up you wake, up you wake, up you wake. Stay woke. And I bet a lot of you do too. Sometimes, you get in your cocoon and you think, oh, I'm the only one that does this, but people you don't know that somehow you feel really bonded to, they just kind of walk by and you're just like, you feel like they're an aunt or uncle or a grandmother. And so I was in a hotel room and there was a cleaning lady there working restlessly and endlessly. It felt like I had been walking with her. And I wrote this for her, though she doesn't know it. It's called Lineage. Black back bent. She rolls her burdened vacuum, more noise than suction over a stained, smothered rug. Black back bent. Lugs a mop full of mud-colored water across the bathroom floor that reeks of mildewed rain. Thin, moist, biscuit-colored hands shimmy a duster across hard surfaces. Muscles move by rote. Black back bent, her wiry frame attached to a pound of keys jangling from her waist. Black back bent. I want to invite her to sit a while, tell her a story to make her laugh like sun ray between walnut trees. I want her to rest while I fill the tub with lavender water, brush her too busy hair into a bergamot sleep, massage the ache from between her knuckles, tell her it is someone else's turn, nurture her as though she was my grandmother, working too much, too long, too hard, black back bent. She asked if I mind if she sits and rests her feet, sits down long enough to recite a Sunday school story about being beat down but rising up. Says God is the great pool stick maneuvering us folks, bouncing everywhere in and out of pockets. This here keeps my pockets full of time, unalone, meeting folks like you. Then she rocks herself up, black back bent, rolls her cart out the room, a distant jangle of keys. I am a native of San Bernardino, and we've been working on this project. It's at the Fowl Library, Cal State University, San Bernardino, where we've been interviewing the elders of San Bernardino, people that are like in their 90s. I've had the blessing of interviewing people that like a week before they left the earth. And it's just been phenomenal. I started on this journey with a professor in Redlands because I wanted to start writing about my growing up years. And Purgatory Has an Address, which is my most recent collection, is a mini memoir. And as I was trying to remember locations and places, I grew up in a segregated San Bernardino, even though they say segregation didn't exist in California. And it was like Mayberry RFD. I felt so safe. It was beautiful. And I wanted to recapture that. And I started to look for the names of people and find it somewhere in some history account. And there wasn't any. And as I was going to the library, a professor was coming and she was looking around and we ran into Wilmer Amina Carter. And in the early 2000s, her and her husband Ratibu also realized that there weren't any stories about all of the wonderful, successful people in San Bernardino that made it an all-American city in 1976. And so they started the interviewing process. And she just had mountains of things that she had saved. And I had the opportunity to sit and interview her. This is a snippet of her story that I'm going to share with you. I don't have a title for it yet. If you've ever been in the South at night, it is pitch velvety black. In my hometown in Mississippi, in the pitch velvety black, it's an easy place to hang a man on a Saturday night when you're bored and white. But if the Black Masons found out, the Prince Hall Masons found out, they'd sneak that man out of the county before the fire was lit, before the rope was flung for that Black man to be hung. If you needed saving, Prince Hall Masons were the one. In the pitch velvety black of Mississippi nights, Masons had a hiding place where Blacks and Choctaws would meet to learn to read, to learn to write, so we could sign our names on a deed, to learn math, to learn what it means to own property. They taught my grandfather, and my grandfather taught me. My whole life has been stories about my grandfather, who worked on a farm, saved his money, bought his first acre of land we still own today. My whole life has been stories about my grandfather, who built the bridges from which I see the world. He told me I am smart and I have to not let the fact that I am Black, that I am female, get in the way. He'd say, you may not have a lot of money, but if you serve people, people will serve you. You'll always have what you need. And to this day, I've never been in want of anything. My whole life is the stories my grandfather planted in me. Let it feed my spirit every day as I sojourn from Mississippi to California to find my way in the dry desert heat of the day. I studied, went to SBVC and CSUSB, joined NCNW and the AKAs, a lot of acronyms that stands for excellence and success and a rich legacy in history. My whole life has been stories about my grandfather and the bridge of wisdom he built for me. I have dedicated my life to public service, served 6 years as an assemblywoman. I served in the church beside my husband, Ratibu. One of my legacies, Wilmer Amina Carter High School. Then there are the archives and file library at CSUSB, our bridge where the stories of elders walk down hallways of tomorrow. If you listen, we are bridges for you to cross into your destiny. And the blessing is she's still alive and I got to share that with her. So, yeah. Oh, okay. Okay. Oh, good. Oh, it's them right there. Okay.
I just wanted to wake you all up.
Yes.
I know your poetry's keeping us.
Wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up.
Of course. Yeah.
Hmm?
I just want to sit over there so we can see.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, that way you don't have to look at my bum. Let's see, I should read one from here. Yeah, I'll read that for my dad. And, I know as soon as I start, they'll come, so I'm. And I guess oh.
One moment.
Don't apologize. This is beautiful. Babies and poetry. Don't get any better. Come on in, have a seat. You come Oh, precious. So precious.
We have this moment, and please forgive us for my your reading is beautiful. And sorry to interrupt, but you're handling it really wonderfully. If people want to move up to any of the seats up here, those who came in later, there are seats. And maybe we'll free up these seats too. Is that okay?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I was gonna put it on my head like they did when, you know how kids do, they put it on. I'm wondering, oh my. I don't know how much time I have.
Just keep doing what you do.
Okay. Okay, I guess I'm gonna give a couple of choices. I can read a poem about the weaponization of the police, or I can read a poem about a young man on a bus that I didn't know anything about, but felt bonded with his life. So um, I heard a lot about the one I don't know, so I'll go with Brer Boombox. And I named him Leroy. You just can't. And Leroy, for those who love French, Le Roi, the king. Yeah. Leroy and them got clean, wild laughs like air full of jokes and Afro picks. I never hear they mama tell them be safe, come home, but no, she do. They a little older than me, don't really know them, but feel like I do. Like the bus be a 200-year-old boat we've been riding too long. I lean my head full of tired sun against the window. Bus stop, door belches open. Leroy and them loud talking, thud walking, claim territory in the back of the bus. Boombox blasting, wave your hands in the air. Feels like there ain't no air in here. But Leroy laughed like cool grass and green trees. Hey driver, why we ain't got no air in here? Black Mac, our regular driver, would have made a joke like he be part of we, be fam. Leroy would lean back, put headphones on, Bob quiet smile, satisfied. 2, Hank is white shirt, small frame, looking like sweat don't know his name. Type of man who might chuckle, but never heave a full laugh. If he did, you might think he was passing gas. Wasn't one of us and talk skin deed or thought, never had to strategize to get what he want. He rear viewing Leroy without a clue of what to say or do. You need to hold down that noise. You're disturbing the other passengers. Leroy laughs a little too loud and long. Hank's face is beat, but he don't call for backup. Does not back up, stands his ground. He parks. White pants walk stern to the back of the bus, orders Leroy and them kill the sound or get off. Leroy and them look like they murdered just for fun. Who you think you talking to, little man? I paid like everybody else. Go on up and drive. No one say nothing. I face forward, quick scuffle. Leroy and them jump off the bus, Afro picks bobbing in the air, boombox clutched to chest, bass beating fear and feet. They fly into invisible. I want to say, Leroy, this ain't what it means to be a man, but that moment be gone. I stare at flies hovering over stabbed beads of blood. I can't write the second part of this poem. That's all true. And the second part of this poem would just like blow your mind that one day I will be able to write. That bus driver actually became a police officer. And he showed up at my brother was always in trouble. He showed up at my door one day looking for my brother, and we recognized each other. And I invited him in to have tea, and we sat down and we talked. This sounds ridiculous. Sounds like, no, this would not happen. So this is the weaponization of the police, and then I'll end with one. This is Incident in Blue. And if you have the chance, all you library people, there's this wonderful book called Palaces for the People, written by Eric Kleinenberg, where he says democracy must begin at home, and its home is the neighborly community. So. Maybe the dog pissed on the carpet one too many times when the neighbor saw my son in the hot tub and called the police. My son's head leaning back on his shoulders, eyes closed, chest expanding in the water. The sun is God, and he is God's well-baked son. Eyes closed, steeping like a soaked chamomile tea bag ready for dreams. Eyes open, Two police stiffly stand over him. Get out the jacuzzi, sir. He is yanked into a nightmare. The sun shifts to shadows on the pavement. My bare chest, barefoot, walletless son stepped out calmly. Make sure not to give the illusion of a weapon. Do nothing to make them nervous. We had a complaint from the complex about a vagrant in the jacuzzi. And the sun is yellow dog piss raining on him. Voice clear, but not too firm. I live here. I can take you to my condo. My son's hazel eyes scan neighbors' windows. Police are relaxed and satisfied. On the phone, I hear rage shaking in his voice. I'm no punk, in no mood to see you. I look like Mr. Clean, but I'm no punk. His mind paces. A neighbor called, the police. I gotta calm down. I can feel his tears punching holes in walls. I'm no punk. Had to stay calm. The police. I gotta calm down, but not today. I want to end on a positive. So on a positive one, I will do just a bit of music. That's what I'll do. Just a snippet of music. I think that's what I'm going to do. Because poets, we too be jazz musicians. Sassafras and rhythm, improvising life. And blowing, we too be rubato blue. Satchmo feel it, Coltrane reel it, lovers. And syncopation, heavy downbeat, 6/8 time, waiting, tempo up, breathing, breezy, easy, free we be, free we be, free we be jazz.
So lovely, and I just need a tie break. Okay. Is this thing on?
Oh.
Didn't need it, huh?
I was a high school teacher for 20 years.
Do we know where the rest of, I think did I take some?
Oh, yeah.
I should have this memorized, but I don't. Our next poet is Xochitl Bermejo. She is the daughter of Mexican immigrants and author of Posada, Offerings of Witness and Refuge, Sendra's Publications, 2016. Her second collection, Incantation, Love Poems for Battle Sites, is forthcoming from Mouthful Bill Press in fall 2023. Yay! Her poem Battlegrounds was featured at Academy of American Poets Poem a Day on Bean's Poetry Unbound. And the anthology Poetry Unbound, 50 Poems to Open Your World, W.W. Norton. She is the director of Women Who Submit, and she's going to talk a little bit about Women Who Submit, which is an organization that means an awful lot to me. And all the readers that you hear today are members of Women Who Submit. She teaches poetry and creative writing with Antioch University, MFA, and UCLA Extension. Inspired by her Chicana identity, she works to cultivate love and comfort in chaotic times. Please welcome Sonia.
Thank you, Carla, for the invitation. Romaine, oh my God, that was amazing. And I'm like, glad I don't have to go right into poetry right now, because you just, and I also feel like you blessed us, like, as a poet, I just, yeah, that last poem really moved me. So yeah, thank you again, Carla, thank you, and Peter. It's so wonderful to be here, and like amazing audience, beautiful audience. Thank you all for coming out in the rain and the cold. Something about Women Who Submit. I am a co-founder and I'm the director. It's an organization that started in 2011. The idea is that we create co-working spaces, panels, and workshops to help empower women identifying and non-binary writers to submit work for publication. It is an action towards gender parity and wider representation of marginalized voices in literary publishing. And yes, thank you to these folks here who are part of this organization and do leadership roles within the organization. Thank you to some folks out in the audience who are also Women Who Submit. If you're interested in knowing more, you can just, come talk to me after. Also, there is an SGD chapter that's currently run interim chapter lead with Sakae Manning. So if you're interested in linking up with Sakae, I can also let you know how to do that. And also, like, we have a website, Women Who Submit Lit, womenwhosubmitlit.org. We're on Instagram and Twitter, Women Who Submit, and all our resources are free and open to anyone. So yeah, however you identify, just know that there are resources online for you that are free and available. And we're just here to demystify the publication process. So that's my little second. All right, so I'm gonna read some poems. I'm gonna read some, I figure it's still February, it's cold and rainy, which makes me want to get all cuddly and snuggly with someone. So I'm gonna read some love poems. They're not, they're not usually what I read. So I thought it'd be fun to do that today. Thank you, yeah. So this is Seeking Sunday Morning Guitar Riffs. Play me a song and I'll dance. Write me a song and I'm yours. The swallowtail's proboscis curl atop its head in a crown. I work to be just as natural. I unfurl my tongue, drink you in, call your toxin self-preservation. White nectar trickles down my chin onto my belly, keeps me shimmering. Bitterness breaks into bright orange spots atop iridescent blue wings, makes a scene. You magic me into song and I'm platinum, in party goers' ears playing on and on. This one is totally new, so we'll see how it goes. I went and saw Eternal Sunshine for the Spotless Mind. I've seen it multiple times, but the scene that always gets me is if you've seen it when they're like, he's in his memory, a childhood memory, and she comes and saves him from this moment in his life where he feels a lot of shame. And I always love that idea of like meeting someone and our inner children help heal each other. What if this was what was meant to be after Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind? A murder of bullies menaced Joel into hammering a dead bird. Deep in a boyhood memory, he's cloaked in a red cape. Clementine meets him there, crowned in a pink cowboy hat. She reaches for her hand and says, "Let's go." Joel wants to stand up to the boys, but Clem says it's not worth it. They're not worth it. Still, they were always meant to break up. You and I were never meant to be more than a waxing moon, but the fullness of your kiss still glows brilliant. You shared your Coca-Cola with me, took me dancing, spun me at a concert in the park on a cool summer night, said you couldn't believe no one else had ever spun me before. True and not true. There was always my mother. But this was different, wasn't it? Afterward, we fought mouths spitting hot in the street. Still, if we stop right now, grab our belongings and exit the vehicle, That can't erase the laugh scream that bellowed from my body as we chased a track spinning fast around a mountain. The path was always set. The ride was always meant to be exhilarating. When I was little, I wore tight braids and was told not to be a bother. I imagined your wild curls growing big with every harsh word that said you weren't enough. But for a moment, we reached for the other's hands. Worth it. And I'm just going to say that these poems are going to come out, are going to be in this collection that's coming out in the fall, which I'm very excited for with Through Mouthfeel Press. So be on the lookout for that. This next one is inspired by John and Yoko's bed-in for peace. During the lockdowns, I was kind of interested in looking at art that was made while in bed. And so I was so I was watching a lot of those videos and interviews. They invited a lot of journalists to come and be with them in their hotel room on their honeymoon. And they used that as, you know, as a way to protest the Vietnam War. And so that's inspired by those interviews and videos. She is me, but we are we. After John and Yoko's bed-in. Forget what they say about suns and sunsets. The key is together. We can get it together. We can smooth fresh ivory sheets across a king, arrange sugar chrysanthemums and bountiful bouquets about the bed. You'll tune a favorite guitar, the hand-me-down that fits right in your lap. Fluff a pillow for her to sit. Don't be afraid to call her love, or the rectangle floating in the room island, beginning great society. She won't be afraid to pen a philosophy from salvage lines about your hands, the way they finger frets and stroke strings when she requests a song, which she only requests when necessary. Together, we can invite the children, welcome picture books and teddy bears, elect Mr. Bear Queen, allow them to appoint family chancellor. Together, we can watch jaded edges lose teeth, hear our voices pour like cream when songs are about peace or moons or roses or any fucking cliche we can think to sing. Ritual of wholeness. Yellow lemons grew ripe behind her house, and when I was younger but no longer little, I would speed past her working in the kitchen, barely a hello, out the back door to select a single bright Meyer. Grandma stayed silent as I carried the fruit in, laid it at the counter, bared the knife, sliced it through the belly. Not until we were seated at the table, her watching from across the way, as I squeezed and spilled juice over a bowl of tender frijoles swimming in caldo. Not until I devoured 2 healthy helpings did she say with a wink, ¿Por qué no comes? ¿No tienes hambre? As if to say, want could never be shameful. This next poem is dedicated to the 21 children and teachers who were murdered in Uvalde. There's this part in it that says, I love you. And I was thinking about the two children who were boyfriend and girlfriend, and they used to text each other every night. So that's where that comes from. And this also has an epigraph from Alexis Pauline Grums from Undrowned. We are learning and relearning how to honor each other, how to go deep, how to take turns, how to find nourishing light again and again. Excuse me. So learning how to love you, which is to say, love me. If I were a mermaid, my tail would sparkle pink and the shells covering perky breasts tart yellow. I would be forever summer, like ice cream trucks, like cherry slush, like 2 naive kids freely turning crisp under the shallows of a 3-foot pool. In the ocean, I'd swim, spin, full body blowing bubbles. I'd dive below the weight of water to speak secrets only meant for you. Ah, wah, woo would shape from my open lips, and together we'd lap circles, building whirlpools, inviting rainbow fish to catch a ride. And not until I tired, drifted to the seafloor, laid my body across a rock, heard I love you too sound me to sleep? Would I dream of the undrowned children never aged? Brown, big-headed babies, alive in their schools, playing clams with cousins, learning numbers by octopus, all the while being protected by whales and dolphins in a way that said they were always safe. And when I'd wake, I'd feed myself pineapple, do my stretches, squid ink dreams on paper, making them real enough to be true, and tail to the surface to find you bathed in sunlight and us ready to start again. And this is my last one. Again, thank you all in Altadena Library and Jesse for all you do. Thank you so much. This is called Sanctuary, and there's an epigraph from Audre Lorde's Poetry is Not a Luxury. As they become known to and accepted by us, our feelings and the honest exploration of them become sanctuaries and spawning grounds for the most radical and daring ideas. This is Sanctuary. I tell a man straight for the first time, I need to be valued, and a hot pink tropical flower blooms. I step back to see the many retaining walls I've built. I've recognized these as fears, and vines grow and stretch until every border is reclaimed. As the garden becomes more lush, more green, so too my voice becomes more rich. Soon, call-outs echo through the valley, and each one becomes a tree to sit under and rest. I put my hand to the knot in a thick trunk of an oak, and I ask her to hold me. Trees are homes that need caring. Their roofs need fixing. To speak truth is an upkeep. I welcome others to sit under trees, to bring their blankets and their poems. We call it a mitote and wear magnolias in our hair. Like ears, their magenta petals are best suited for holding our tears. Our screams are the fertile soil holding the bones of every woman's scream that came before us. Our breath and saliva feed the hills we raise together, the hills our nieces and daughters climb to paint birds, be an ocean. Thank you.
Oh my God, that was so beautiful. Thank you. Thank you. Can you hear me okay? I was traumatized when Allen Ginsberg yelled at me for reading too softly one time. And just so you know, he died, so. Noriko Nakata is a multiracial Asian American who creates fiction, nonfiction, poetry, and art to capture the hidden stories she has been told not to talk about. Yay to that. Publications include her memoir series, Through Eyes Like Mine, Overdue Apologies, and I Tried. Through Eyes Like Mine was shortlisted for the 2040 Book Award. Excerpts, essays, fiction, and poetry have appeared in Catapult, Meridian, Kartika, Hippocampus, and Linden Avenue. Please welcome Noriko. Sorry.
Thank you, Peter. Thank you, Carla, for offering me my poetry debut. I have never performed my poetry. I've done, I've read fiction, nonfiction, but I've done some recordings of poems, but and to be in such esteemed company. Thank you, Romaine, for your powerful words. Thank you, Sochi. Love poems. Amazing. So this first poem is called Pronunciation Guide for My Mother. How do you say hers is a name I can't pronounce in Japanese? Is there a word for that in German? Something akin to Bauderen, regret, or the Irish word for daughter, Iniom. Did you know I would be the one with the light eyes, the berry nose, the double eyelids, that I would pass as Hakujin, even though I'm Hafu? Your nickname for me, the one that means seaweed instead of child of the law, is like Lori, but with an N. My full name is Staccato Song in My Father's Mouth. a drum beat rhythm singing the story of who I am, the story my face fails to tell, reflecting who I am in ways you were never able to pronounce. So these next few poems are from Gathering, which is a Women Who Submit anthology. The women who submit folks in this room, many of them are in these pages. So if you want to read more from Romaine, from Sochi, from Carla, from myself, pick up a copy. Pardon? Oh, I'm sorry. Should I use the microphone? Testing. All right. So these are poems that I wrote with another Women Who Submit member, Hazel Kite Witham. We had a correspondence during the shutdown. And I thought this first poem was appropriate. It's called, Can We Talk About the Weather? Can we talk a little bit more about the desert, about the air and the pools of conversation, our past lives floating because we are trapped, and the rest feels so desperate, so far away? Can we talk about the praying mantis, rescued from a watery grave, and the praying that he might have done, but probably didn't, still resulting in resurrection? Can we talk less about teaching and more about writing? Although the two are so linked, we can never seem to have one conversation without the other. I forgot to tell you, I recorded a reading that I'll never use. It captures the lyrics of REM's Hair Shirt and an excerpt of Drive. You are beautiful, this life. Let's click a cassette tape into a car stereo and drive away, even if just for a few moments, and escape these prison portals, these voices calling out to us from every corner of this gentle trap. What would you listen to? Could we breathe sitting next to one another with the windows down and let go of the fear that we might be silently killing one another? Can we talk about how beautiful it all is and how fucked up? I know we must find a way to keep breathing when even these envelopes, these words, these missives fail to fill the void. This one's called Such a Time, or More of the Same. When the grief of this life has worn me too worried, when day I can't keep track of bleeds into another of the same, I wonder what laying down these burdens might look like. What is it to quit? I've been told we cannot do such things, but I'm ready to lay it all down. To lift bones from bed feels burdensome. To wrestle children from sleep, knowing and not knowing exactly what the day will hold, is both light and exhaustion. It's more of the same, Hayes. It's leaving me in a familiar/unfamiliar state. Take in gulps, the air, the news, the risks, the ash, the heartache, the teaching, the questions, the fire, the parenting, the writing, the reading, the all-consuming, discerning answers, seeking hope, knowing tomorrow, the morning leads into more of the same. It's too much, and it's all that remains. And this is the last in this series between Hazel and I. A false choice. I woke up the other morning with the first lines of this poem on my heart. Is it safe yet to celebrate? Your last poem reminded me of levity, a good place to start. But that was before the election and the most recent surge, before the doctors and nurses urged us all again not to look away. Still, I remind myself that I need the light, the laughter, Seeing how bad and how serious has never been my problem. So I write again because the words still show up here despite doubt and neglect. Because my body keeps carrying me through these days, although I curse and critique it and do not let it rest. Because time outdoors has done me good and our planet still sustains us despite our abuse. Because blood is blue until you cut it wide open. Exposing red and the purple bruise of our country might start to heal. Yes, this is a good place to start. What other choice do we have to not begin? All right, so these next few poems, I don't know if it's working, it keeps going red and then another. Yes, thank you. All right, so my dad lives up in Portland where they got like a foot of snow this week. And he's in memory care, so there's this long goodbye, and I carried on a correspondence with him during the pandemic. Sorry, these are wrong order. Hey, Dad, it was so great to see you today, to talk with you face to face, even though it was through a screen. Your haircut looks great, and your smile. You seem better now than you have in months. I love that my kids got to say hi, and your interactions brought us all joy, although I fear we exhaust you. And then, just before we hung up, you said goodbye to Kiara. You said her name, Dad, and I don't think I've ever heard you say her name before. Each syllable bearing its own weight. Kiara. Similar to the way you say no rico. Casting a distant memory of you, teaching me how to say my own name. Watering plants. A child on a farm, your father taught you how to transform seed into tidy rows of red strawberries, sweet potatoes, lettuce. You arrived in a high desert decades later to plant a garden beside the house, making the most of the sun. And there, stalks of corn grew tall. When you moved to a muddy valley and the soil held so much water, you tended hydrangeas and roses. Now you stay inside and it's bamboo and jade poplars, the Brazilian stone. How are you able to grow so much green? Can you teach me how not to kill things? This is called Cat's Cradle. Do you remember the yarn?
Yeah.
Fingers tug loops of yarn, middle fingers graze palms, starting this cat's cradle dance inside twine pulled tight between dry space of humble hands. Two partners play this game for children, one not yet resurrected like the origami box, the fortune teller, the card games. I imagine you, Dad, and my young son sitting next to one another, hands bound together in play. Do these strings reach across generations? Does thread pull and stretch, connecting my son's new words to the words you are forgetting? As intermittent pulls into my boy's brain, does it loosen like mud from yours? Fingers pinch across diamonds, circle muscle. Should I wish my son mute and keep your stories tied safely inside you for a few days more, months, years? Can my son's words wait? When pinkies finally cross and bridge, the hands turn upside down, pulling strings tight, circle and leap, cuffing our hands, leaving behind this mess of worry. All right, so this is the last poem I'm going to read. One of the last poems for my dad. Hey, Dad, I will not be sending you this letter because I fear that the end of this project and the end of your life might intersect, and the end of the pandemic won't come before our next visit. I can't remember what we talked about the last time I saw you in person. I have never been away from home this long, if home is Oregon, land of pandemic protest, fire, and sacred ash, friends and family, religion, and hate. All of the reasons I stayed/left in the first place, and you know this. You moved there despite it all, shifting our family's proximity to whiteness, leaving me to ask myself, who are my people? Where is my home? Questions embedded in my blood. It might not have mattered where I was born and raised. The questions we ask might still be the same. How is the weather? When will I see you again? Wonderful. Gorgeous.
Does anyone need to take a 2-minute break? No? What if I told you I do? Do you promise not to leave? The doors are locked and an alarm will go off if you step out. So do that weird thing that people make you do at these events, like say hello to the person next to you if you don't know them, or if you do know them, say hello again, and I'll be back in 2 minutes.
You're from Canada, right?
I am Canadian. I'm from Seattle, but I might have to be back there. Okay, we're gonna get started in just a couple minutes. We're just waiting for the line to now.
Yeah, I haven't either. I mean, I was watching it on Instagram. I was like, dude, I'm sure I'll.
Okay, we're gonna wait a couple minutes because there's a line outside the bathroom. Apparently I started them off. There should be, yeah. I can find you. Or do you have to?
That's what we're doing.
Hey, you guys. Am I ever gonna get this unruly group back again? Where did I start? Last few months. Can you hear me? Hola. No. Oh my God, this is why I don't teach in a classroom. I teach online so they, you know. Okay.
we all get along.
Well,
Successful in your prompt.
yes, you are. Yeah, I know. Clearly I started a trend. That was just bubbling beneath the surface, but you were all so polite. Nobody wanted to admit it. Okay. All right. Thank you all for being here. Thank you to the library. Thank you to my co-poet laureate, Peter. Thank you to these marvelous poets who joined me. And yeah, hard act to follow, but here I go. So we're in the middle of one weather extreme, and you probably remember this other weather extreme. Love letter to a burning world, Southern California, 2020. Praise the dark that covers us with ashes, this morning's tears, reminding us why we cherished the not burning baby cry of awake, not heartbreak. Mom, I need a hug, please. I just can't seem to do anything right. Raphael, the angel name. Should we have birthed a warrior instead, one who could fight the demons? I can't say for sure I'm an addict, but I'm doing too much. He gets up, then decides he'd rather smoke, not feeling okay right now. I am twisted up, feel the same way, not okay. No, son, what you are feeling are singed embers after 6 months of shutdown, broken glass, murder after murder of men and women the color of your skin, at traffic stops, in the dark, in bed, while jogging, anywhere. Praise the path that brought you here today, a boomerang. Mom, I can't make it. I'm at the car repair. I need to keep looking for someone who could fix this. The drop, like we hear in music. I hear it in his soul. My face is wet as he leaves in a gust. I have to meet my friends at the demonstration. I'll feel better, more purpose. Do you kill a child by holding or letting go? Ashes, ashes as he runs out the door. Doesn't he know this is an emergency, like the blare of fire warning? Pack your bags comes from the evacuation order. Today, his voice searing into my chest. Praise his tears for crying with me. Praise the seat that holds me fast. We used to argue over hearts. I called my older sister over and over again whenever I ran away. The first time 6 crossing the street to the little park, but then I couldn't come back because I remember I wasn't allowed to cross the street by myself. I sat on a pile of leaves sniffling, imagining my sister rescuing me. When I was a teenager, she went away to college. I telephoned her, my complaints a steady pitter patter or a torrent, depending on the temperature at home. My brother taught me how to avoid recurrent nightmares by focusing on the scariest moments before going to sleep. I was terrorized by a series of dreams about Bunny Goo, who was either a tall, bald white man who wanted to take over the world, or a sticky tar that got on the bathtub faucet and caused it to overflow. My younger sister gave me imaginary sleeping pills, told me just breathe and think about ocean waves and Mount Rainier, ferry boats, and sunsets over Puget Sound. She teaches meditation now. We were so young then, turning to the closet for refuge. My dad was a high school teacher who used to say, with liberty and justice for some, when forced to recite the Pledge of Allegiance. He was my favorite dance partner, and I felt graceful on the floor with him at weddings and bar mitzvahs. My mom went out for Shirley Chisholm. She worked, went to school, and took care of the 4 of us, plus my dad. Later, with almost all speech robbed by dementia, she found the words, God, that man is repulsive, when pre-2016 Trump was on television. I miss my mom and dad, even the fights and the television blaring news, my dad's temper, our stuffed animals, large, wise, and plush, sat sentry while we ran amok. Eat a thigh instead. Dark meat is juicier. We used to argue over the hearts and gizzards. Now no one wants those parts. In 2017, I had the opportunity to travel with my then wife when she was at a temporary assignment with the Coast Guard in Connecticut. And I did a lot of traveling and writing, and it was probably the first time in forever that I'd had that kind of downtime. So I even did this. Greyhound, Charlotte to Savannah. It smells like bad luck and sorrow, plus a look of too much meth, crystal meth, and DIY tattoos. 40 years since I've taken Greyhound, and I just noticed I've got old hands. Yeah, and they're older now. But I did make it to Savannah. Unpacked. Did you know this feng shui space in the tropical breeze of your friend's Savannah house? The big pillared porch is for you. A tree climber's dream, live oak stretching langoriously, Spanish moss, purple hydrangeas. Rest here, your friend insists. Offers a white waffle patterned spa bathrobe. Did you know that the birds are calling you? When thoughts take you far away to a land rank with regret, unraveling obsession and rancid fear, seek the sweet bird calls. Return to your breath. Mothering alone all these years, son almost lost, stepdaughter amputated, undone, unblended. This is what happens to your family. Did you know when you escape back to your writing mind, soul and heart wholly engaged, you might not even remember how you got here? Time will move itself. Did you know last month your coastie wife heard from 3 different friends in the Coast Guard, each story a regurgitated acronym? MST equals military sexual trauma, equals they destroy you, take you apart, spit you out. Stay silent. Your fault. Trauma at home, trauma abroad. Birds sometimes talk the same language in Savannah as they do in Pasadena. But the birds you heard in your little ship-shaped cottage in Connecticut, those birds were entirely different. Their bright red two-part whistle startles you awake, reminding you how Los Angeles and Oakland are sex trafficking capitals of the world, while most people assume this is another country's problem. And some of those victims, women who've been torn apart, still live, alive in their lives. Some might even be caring for your old ones. And did you know that daily meditation calms the heart, quiets the fears, but still you find it difficult? Did you know what gratitude a smooth turning fan moving thick salty air will cause? Just be in this lush white room with tropical sea smell in Savannah. Hear the birds, lush, muggy gardens, thick air, gives your waddle a delicious feel, a little twist. And did you know that by virtue of experiencing violence, sexual assault or domestic violence, violence by authorities, like when the sheriff's deputy once broke your nose, you are most likely to be re-victimized. Vulnerability becomes your perfume, and not because you chose it. You carry this knowledge, you inhabit this room, because destruction has to find you, and you're given this place to unpack. I'm missing something. I'm missing it. Oh, okay. Okay, no, you didn't take it. I am just disorganized. When you left for Portland, this is a companion piece for Portland. When you left for Portland, I did not know what it might feel like when you were ready to go out on your own. I don't mean to the recovery house or that place in Torrance or Koreatown with the boys from the house, or your place in Silver Lake where we climbed the stairways and they left out free lemons. You didn't tell me you were going, so I could not say goodbye the way I'd planned. Son, I know you'll have adventures, plant seeds. I know you dream of studying in Berlin. Beware of leftover Nazis, new right-wing white supremacists, Jew haters, though we know they treat Black people better there than they do here. They don't know you're an Afro-Jew, so you'll hear all the tobacco-stained spit words. Ignore this. Keep taking photos of underpasses like you always have. Throw out old losses. I wish I would. This is how I learned, 21, living in Mexico City. Don't trust bad men in places you can't escape after you've drank too much brandy presidente, or it will be too late to run down the mountain. You might end up on the floor, carpet engraving your head, and you'll never forget the tacos al pastor he made you eat before it happened. I could not escape that time. I didn't call my mom, but this is how I learned that when your kid stops calling for a while, it means you have to find him. It might be too late, but I would have to find, save, comfort, rescue, hug, feed you. It wouldn't be throwing it all in one pot Jewish chicken soup. You'd get Filipino chicken soup with bok choy, chayote squash, ginger, pork, jalapeno. What I learned to cook from my ex in Seattle, the one who got away, the one who said if we had stayed together, we'd have had a bunch of children. What I wanted was to go with you when you set out in your new old SUV up the coast towards my birthplace. You called halfway there and said, Mom, I don't tell anyone where I go now. Bravado, son. I know you had to push away. What felt like a light shove to you scared the shit out of me because the call dropped when you were driving. I imagined car crashes, the unidentified body of the sweetest boy that ever lived, the one with the long lashes my sister said I curled. So you are fine. You're reading Ta-Nehisi Coates, the one I gave you last week. You told me Portland is the whitest city, but I found a Black barber from Arkansas. He said the people are kind here and harassed him only 4 or 5 times over the years. Still, you'll probably head to New Orleans when productions open up again. You'll find the work with Black costume designers in a Black city, and you'll make money, buy a house with 3 or 4 bedrooms. One for me, of course. I dream of grandchildren, dream of you being small in my arms again, dream of warm, milky breath. What I want sometimes is to go back. What I wish for you is to go forward. All right, this is the one that I falsely thought. The family stories. Don't worry, I won't tell everything. This is not tragedy. You know what tragedy is. I've written about a neck wrapped by hands, what should be called choking, nose splintered into little pieces, what should be called police brutality, blood seeping down leg more times than you want to know, what you might call my lost children. Yes, I would have been that old lady, so many children. I miss them all. When I tell you I'm having a hard time, I might talk about the helicopters over our house each night, as if we are in a war zone. But I'll assure you we are not, though each step home for my Black son could be a battle to secure safe passage. Don't listen if I tell you I'm unhappy. I was crying, not the wails you'd hear with the big stuff, the meat of memoir. This would be whimpers. You must wait until I'm quiet. Maybe the truth will emerge. I asked that one time, was it just too much? In my own mind, finally undone, that time I lay by the side of the bed, grasping floor. My son had become a lost boy. The drugs, the father he longed for in his life, me, the mother he tired of, the world he refused to grapple with anymore. In my own mind, I'm incapable. See the woman with the strong arms swinging an axe. See the woman who fights off skinheads headed towards her sisters. See the sister who jumps in front of her older sister when their explosive dad comes headed for her. See how generational imprints paint rage over pain on his body. There are too many versions of the family stories. We all claim the same black eye, from being chased into the kidney-shaped coffee, the mosaic my mom made to keep from running away and leaving it all, the 4 kids, the husband, the stuck place. All my life I've been praised for tenacity, but believe me when I tell you, I wish I'd given up climbing the mountain sometimes. Only once I raised the white flag, told my wife, I just can't walk another step, gasping for air. Red-faced and damp. She pulled out dry shirts, odd snacks, and warm pants, and took me up to the top, one kiss after another, listening. This is the poem that I wrote, and it was published, and it has some news that I hadn't yet told my 99-year-old aunt, but then I went to visit and she said, oh, I read your poem, it was great. So no need for what I thought could be an interesting conversation. My wife, who became my husband. He has begun to sound more mannish, as if we were in an old-time movie. Maybe My Fair Lady. He's as grumpy as Professor Higgins. I'm not saying he wasn't a curmudgeon before, but the first days after his top surgery, it was as if he'd awoken in his real body, this new he and my husband. And I was moved by his happiness, as if he'd finally landed on the right planet. But then I suppose the anesthesia and pain pills were off and there was a downward movement, as if the plane went into a tailspin. He says he has no regrets, but perhaps some resentment that he couldn't have been born into the right body the first time around. After that, I couldn't seem to locate the euphoria, the sweetness of those early post-surgery days when I could tend to him. And even with his pain, he looked upon it all with wonderment, as if he'd tunneled out the birth canal again, the right gender. This is not what I had in mind when I married that woman. The leap into removing those lovely breasts that were so sexy with the other masculine trappings, her manera de ser. Butchy but tender, six-pack fit and tough, yet vulnerable, hair tied back, neatly, pinned to the top, military style. The first time I saw her after we'd met, she was waiting for me, leaning against a building at California Plaza, La Santa Cecilia playing in the background. We've both gained weight since we married in 2016. Rocky Road and streaming television are sometimes what holds us together. He's got angry scars on his chest, and the tone of his voice often matches with raw irritation. I am always asking too much because he's working full-time, in school full-time, taking 2 courses at another university, and getting shots of testosterone. But I'm a long hauler. My 3rd marriage, I no longer resort to fight or flight as the only options. I remember the photo the documentary photographer took of still her the night before surgery. The light was just so duskish. And she lay back, arm behind her head, shirt off, those sexy blue shorts that matched our Mexican blue bedroom wall. Her blue eyes, a badass look, breasts falling just so and still there. Tough, languid even, but sensual. It has been almost a year now. Let me just say that he is happy with this new adolescence, this coming of age. When puberty first hit him as a girl, he offered to give the breasts away to those who complained of having none. He gleefully shaves the facial hair that begins to crop up. His acne, a welcome sign that change is happening. I see the he appearing every day, begin to see that mixture of shadow and light again. This is who I always was, he tells me, as he emerges from the chrysalis. He says he wants to be the right kind of man. Think tender, think learning to listen, to not run from the feelings. Think social justice fighter, nonviolent. My longing for something different for a woman is eclipsed by my love for this person that dared to make this change at 45, to be the man he always believed he was. To read a couple more. I used to write a lot about my son, but now I seem to be writing a lot about our Saint Bernard. That was my consolation prize. The breasts went and I got a Saint Bernard. Sachet. We do a short walk this time across Belvedere and back in our Northwest Pasadena neighborhood. I want to walk miles, but my hips say otherwise, feeling as if Shakira was here, singing. My hips don't lie. Only mine are not swinging like hers. I wish Dakota, our Saint Bernard, would teach me how to sachet. Move her hips so sexy and gracefully. Big and beautiful, that girl. She lives for sniffing and finding people, Milo says. I tell my beloved, she found us and we were rescued. And we walk on home. So I have a fantasy. Does anyone here ever lose things? Things, people, all the. What else do you lose? Keys, your mind. I had this fantasy. Anyway, here it is. In my room of lost things, all lined up in neat rows, some shiny and happy to be found, but many dusty and worn, waiting on old wood shelves like a Brick Lane vintage basement bazaar. I pull one out and the rest clamor for my attention. Ring I picked with my boyfriend at Trident Imports in 8th grade. Then stone by stone fell out until he broke up with me after our trip to Planned Parenthood when they told us I was too young to have sex. Baseball signed by the original Seattle Pilots circa 1969, the only year they played. My grandma's first cousin's diamond ring, once an earring. Did my stepdaughter steal it when her boyfriend was in jail for attempted murder? The stepdaughter, her daughter, my granddaughter. Time and possibility. So many hours spent trying to take the canoe through the jungle backwards and getting stuck. I know it seems so obvious now. Release and innocence of that first orgasm. Coveralls left by the son of one of the Watergate politicians. Not my boyfriend, but a nice guy. There weren't many back in high school. And the one that got away, boyfriend who told me, I want to grow old with you after we watched older people eating McDonald's cheeseburgers by themselves on Christmas Eve. He is there too, patiently waiting on a shelf. The courage to accept the past. Yes, I'd like to find that on a floating shelf, like a flask of that belief it was all meant to be. I'd binge drink it. The chance to have more kids, to nurse again, to be carrying one in my belly, holding one's hand, and a dear partner balancing the other on shoulders. Climb the ladder to the predella, see Mamacita, the cat that saved us, perched. innards destroyed by coyotes, but she gave them a run for their money. 3 friends no longer alive since my 60th birthday party, lost 1 a year, suicide, Lewy body dementia, cancer, a 4th on his way out. So many missed memories underfoot, branching out. Like that tree outside the kitchen, I never noticed until Guillermina said, look, this beautiful tree you see when you wash the dishes. All these years, I'd only seen the backyard we didn't have. The possibility of being a weightlifter or boxer or jazz trumpet player, all popping out of the circus trunk. Clown punching bag we had as kids sitting neatly in a corner. The castle birthday cake my older brother and sister made for me with Hershey bar moats and leaning ice cream cone turrets. And the laughter we once had, so fast and furious, we called it ticking, like a clock sound in tears. I just have one more that is dedicated to my trumpet teacher, Bill Bing, who's sitting back there. I started taking trumpet lessons after 45 years of not playing, just before the pandemic started. And I think and then eventually we went on Zoom and until we were able to resume in person. But I think that definitely Bill Bing had an intuitive sense of when things were feeling really difficult, as it was for so many of us during these last years. And he always came up with something, even if I said I hadn't practiced. Play the tunes. Lately, trumpet playing loses gusto. Breathing exercises, special scales I can't quite grasp, singing notes I can't expel. It's hella hot outside. Trumpet teacher sends practice lists so long my head spins. Go low, deep-throated locomotive sounds, a grunt, a growl. When the notes become hard to see, a doctor says my left eye is swollen with blood droplets. Stress creates a mess. This trumpet teacher knows I'm missing delight. Watch this young woman, Lucia Horsch, how she becomes one with her recorder. Melancholy reaches for me again. I just want to play the tunes, hear Angel Eyes Ella do her magic. See the post-it. Listen to Jim's play Hasta Luego, trumpet teacher's prescription. My body begins to sway, what a heartbeat does with a drum beat, slip into memories of dancing with Baby and Sling to Idi Gourmet, Los Panchos, singing Ojos Verdes, Piel Canela, warm notes like chili and garlic, of feeding my son, watching his mouth tongue the air. Thank you. And I just want to say thank you again to the library, to all of you for being here, to Poets and Writers for helping to support this event, to everyone else who I haven't named. There's always that default. And I wanted to ask you, I know you've been sitting here for quite a while, but I just wondered if anyone has any questions for the poets here, or for any of us. Questions, comments, complaints? No. Well, thank you. I hope you'll come back and join us again for another event. Thank you.